Welcome to Three Voices Unfiltered, where no topic is off limits and everything gets real. Join us,
Ranisha,
Teresa,
Suzanne, as we dive into hot topics, share our wildest experiences, and bear our honest opinions and thoughts. Buckle up, because with us, it's always raw, always vibrant, and absolutely unfiltered.
hello everybody. Welcome to another great episode of Three Voices Unfiltered. I'm here today with my co-hosts, the fabulous Ranisha and Suzanne. I love them. Fabulous. Anyway, today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic: alone, not lonely. Learning to love our solo time. I love my solo time.
yeah,
I love my
Me
solo
too.
time. So solo time, it really isn't a punishment. It's just a practice. So let's talk about the power of being alone. Renisha?
I had no alone time until I got rid of all my children. I didn't get rid of them, but I quietly instilled in them from birth until 18 that you have to go somewhere at 18. You ain't got to leave, but you got to go somewhere. So my kids understood at an early age that at 18 they needed to go to college. And once they all left in 2020, I finally understood alone time. I never had it before
Wow.
because I had a child at 18. You're talking about 18 until, so 1995 until 2020.
Well, let me ask you a question. When the children left, everybody went their way, went off to school, and did all the things. Did you feel lonely?
No, because then I felt happy.
She was happy. They were
Okay.
gone.
I did, but then then I got diagnosed with the brain tumor in 2020.
Right,
So I had a
that's right.
short stint of
Yeah.
like running around in my underwear, sliding on the floor, like break dancing, hula hooping. And then I found out I had a brain tumor, so that kind of slowed things down. But then
Yeah.
after all that, God healed me from all that. Then I went back to
I know, she's been lifing, y'all. So what about you, Suzanne?
It was kind of weird for me because I grew up in Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, everybody lives together.
Yeah.
So it was like 8 of us in the house. And when I got married and we moved, to California, he was in the military. So I was alone a lot as a 19, 20-year-old, and I was not used to that.
Yeah.
So I remember I was scared. I didn't like being by myself. I mean, I didn't know anybody, to be fair. Living in a strange country, I lived in the U.S. as a child, but anyhow, I went from Puerto Rico to California with him, but I was alone a lot. And it was a struggle. It was hard for me to learn to be alone. Like, I started making friends right away. I would have friends for the weekend. I would let friends stay with me. Like, that's what I really liked.
All right.
So
Wow.
then, it was Kevin and I for a long time. So I remember the first time I took Kevin to be with his dad for the summer. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I remember I was devastated. I just was devastated. But you told me.
This is what I told her. Tell him.
What did you tell me?
I told you to really look forward to it because that is time for you.
And
That's
enjoy
you
myself.
time.
Yeah, she's like,
Enjoy
girl.
yourself. Yeah.
So it was hard, but I eventually learned to embrace it and enjoy it. But I still, like, on Saturdays, Teresa, what are you doing? Where are we going? So I even did that when he went off to college. So, but now I love being by myself.
Wow.
I can appreciate it. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel alone. I don't know if that's just that I got used to it or growth and maturity. I don't know, but I love being by myself. It does not bother me. And then when Kevin was off to college, I figured it out. I went back and got started working on my master's, read a lot of books. I just really enjoyed it. So I think that that's it's a good place to be once you're there.
Yeah. You know, there's two words. You have solitude, and then we have loneliness. So let me define solitude for
Yeah.
you. Solitude is defined as a chosen, peaceful state. That means we choose to be solo. We choose to go on vacation by ourselves. You know, we choose to go in the room while the kids are off doing their thing, and we're in our den, or Renisha in her fabulous fun garage doing all the wonderful things she likes to do. But solitude is a chosen peaceful state. Well, loneliness is an emotional response to being disconnected.
Very different, yeah.
Yes,
So you
very,
can
very
feel
different.
lonely, and like I feel lonely even being on my own. I feel lonely sometimes, but I love solitude.
Yeah.
I love, you know, and I like appreciate you guys. You all, my stomach is growling.
I don't hear it anymore.
So you hear it. That's why I'm laughing. We're unfiltered, and it is too.
It is what it is, yeah.
But anyhow, solitude is like going to the beach by yourself. Like I was getting ready to say, I appreciate you because you too will say you go to the movies by yourself. I have never done that.
I will.
Like-
Dinner, movies,
Purposely travel by yourself.
trips. I go on trips
Yeah.
by myself.
I've done business trips, but I have not on purpose gotten in a car or a plane by myself to have solitude.
Yeah. But
Okay.
loneliness, people, a lot of times, people will equate loneliness with the feeling like they're unwanted.
That's true.
Like nobody loves them. That's why they say loneliness is an emotional state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very different from solitude. Loneliness, you don't have a choice. Like you're
Or
alone.
maybe you feel you don't have a choice.
Yeah, loneliness, you don't have a choice because you yearn to be with someone, or you learn to have that company, personal company, people company, but you can't. So you feel lonely because you can't.
But maybe you should call a friend.
Yeah.
But they don't have time. Maybe they don't have time to spend the time that you need, or somebody is doing something. Everybody's busy, so you feel lonely.
We are really busy, actually. That happened to me when we moved to Quantico. I felt lonely because this guy's work. I didn't know anybody, and in that area of the world, the country, the state, people work. They have to commute. So I would meet friends, but they were leaving to go to work, at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they wouldn't get home until 7 or 8 at night. So I did not. And then guess what? You're doing life then if you have children, and then on the weekends it was catching up. So I felt lonely because it was really hard to connect with people. And we finally, through church, made some friends. But so I understand what you're saying about being lonely. I was lonely.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a time in my life where I felt lonely. Even when I was single and I bought my house, there were no kids, we had no dog, there was no Ralph. I said, God, I prayed. And I said, God, if I never, ever have another relationship and I'm going to live my life by myself, I'm okay with that. Like I made peace. Like if that was going to be what my life was going to be like, I was okay with it because I was in a good place.
What about being afraid to be alone? I can tell you that in 2024, there was a time where I was a little afraid of being alone because I experienced, a couple of health issues. And thank the Lord that it didn't turn out to be anything serious. But I was afraid to be in the house by myself and no one being there because, of course, my thoughts went to, what if I pass out? What if I fall? What if? So I would say that was a time where I was afraid to be alone.
I've been afraid to be alone before.
That's a good point, Teresa.
Yeah.
Because when you have a health condition, like I had cancer, and I thought, what if nobody wants to be with someone who has or had cancer? And I thought about that for a while, but then I was like, it is what it is, you know, because it can feel like a scar.
Yeah.
Like a lonely scar, I guess. I don't know. I didn't feel lonely, but I did have that thought, like, how do you explain to someone that you've had cancer? When I met Ralph, I'm like, when am I going to share this?
Right.
Everybody was asking me, have you told Ralph that you had brain cancer? Have you? I'm like, no. I don't know if I'm going to tell him. But I did. I mean, but I did think of that. I thought maybe I would be alone, because who wants to be with someone who possibly had a really traumatic health condition?
Wow.
Yeah, it takes a lot. I had a friend that was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had a boyfriend, and at the time they hadn't been dating that long, maybe a few months, but he bailed. When the first weekend she went to chemotherapy, he was within days or that weekend, I don't know, but shortly thereafter he bailed out. He broke up with her.
I mean,
he couldn't handle it.
I view that as a blessing. I really do, because God showed her who he was real quickly so he can move out the way.
Y'all know my ex bailed, like, emotionally during and we were married, so he bailed emotionally. He was there physically, but I didn't get anything in terms of support.
I think that a lot of people use social media and their cell phones to try to connect to people because they don't like the silence.
And break the loneliness.
Of
There's
being
people,
alone.
that's how these women that we talked about briefly one time, and men, but a lot of they get caught up with people that are scamming them. But I was talking to my husband about it, and I'm like, it's about love. People are looking for love.
Yeah.
And sadly, they get taken advantage of by these scammers because they know that that's what we're looking for. They're playing on their emotions, but it really is like an emotional connection that they make with them that manipulates them into doing the things that they do. So we say, I would never do that, you know, that would never happen to me. But you don't know that. You don't know if you're so lonely that finding that connection really resonates with you, and you're caught up before you even know how to get out.
Yeah, that's why we can't judge people, because we're not in their shoes. You know, we don't know what's going on in their life. We don't know what's happening in their lives. We don't know what fears they're facing. We don't know if they have any unresolved trauma, you know.
Yeah.
We don't know if they have a hard time dealing with boredom. We just don't know. We don't know. So I just believe in always trying to have a empathetic stance when it comes to people and what they're going through, because we can easily say, well, I would never. I don't understand. I don't get it. And a lot of times we don't. But that doesn't negate that these people honestly are feeling what they feel. Yeah.
You brought up a good point about fear of being alone. I've never felt like loneliness, but there was a fear I did have about never having another relationship after I got divorced. And so I was online dating up a whole storm, and I met this guy. And he was just talking to me. He was saying all the right things. He was like, oh, yeah, so we'll meet. We'll have dinner. And it was so romantic. Like, yes. And then he asked me for $4,500.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
You got love bombs. I think we talked about that before.
No, that was a different one. Ooh, I'm like, have you lost your mind? I have 3 kids. I have 4 kids.
And that's like a red flag for me. As soon as you ask me for money, I'm done. I don't care how much you're loving me and how much you're saying. It's not happening. I wouldn't have had it.
Sir, did you just hear me talk to you about that guy can barely put gas in my car and you ask me for $4,500? Are you crazy?
And that's terrible, because love is so powerful.
Yes,
and that's why we let people do it.
Yeah, but you know, guys, okay, let's talk about some good positive.
I think some ways
about
bridge loneliness.
Yeah.
Start a group. There's so many things you can do online of like-minded people. Start a group, start a Facebook group, something that you like to do, a hobby, and just get people in that group to share those experiences with you, so you don't feel so lonely.
Yeah, I look at my positive outlook on alone time is it just sometimes gives me energy. It gives me an opportunity to just recharge my battery. It gives me an opportunity to be creative sometimes, to be productive sometimes. I just cannot say anything negative about being alone. Being alone, except for when I just said about being afraid to be alone because of just some health challenges.
Yeah.
But it gives you an opportunity to you can talk to yourself. You can talk to the Lord, and you can identify what it is. What do I want to do today? What do I want to do in the future? Things of that
Sometimes you want to
nature.
do nothing.
And sometimes you don't want to do nothing.
You don't want to do
true.
anything. But how about this? When you were talking, it made me think about. So we're talking about being alone or lonely, as in being solo. But you can be so alone and lonely with someone else right there, 6 feet away from you.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
So that can happen too. You feel so lonely and so just like you don't matter, and that's a whole nother situation as well. So it's not about being comfortable about being alone or not solo, but what if you have a partner or a mom or a sister, brother, whatever it may be, and you just feel so lonely and alone?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's real.
Wow. Well, and that's horrible. But it goes back to just trying to communicate with that person, right? Don't you
I
think?
feel like I had a situation similar to that. I've had every situation where I don't know if I felt alone, but I was with someone and I didn't feel like I was with that person because he was just a mean person.
Oh wow.
Like silent treatment and all those very narcissistic behaviors.
Oh wow.
So I identify with that though. That's real.
Yeah.
You can be with someone and also feel like you're lonely.
Like you're alone. Yeah. What
So-
would we tell people? Like, I would say, like, is that what you're getting ready to say?
That was the question I was going
Yeah.
to pose. Okay, so what would be the advice?
Leave them.
Well, what if you can't? What if
Why not? You got 2 legs.
What if you can't financially? Some people just financially cannot
Yeah,
leave.
and you got children.
And how about they live in even different rooms? They're not together, but because of finances, they have to stay together.
That's terrible.
That's terrible.
It is terrible.
But I would say, like, go out, meet people, join organizations that are like your dancing
Yeah.
thing that you
I
love,
love
and you
that.
go meet people, and you were doing the trail rides, and I wasn't doing anything.
What?
like
I was
that.
gonna say, what were you doing? You were salsa. How do you say
Salsaing. I could
salsa?
salsa. I don't know. Have I ever joined an organization that I went away for the weekend and stuff like that?
Yeah,
But
there's a
I
lot
like
of
doing
groups.
stuff solo. I'll can. I love canning. I love crafting. So it doesn't bother me to be alone. But if it's a thing that bothers you, then you need staying home, and it's not gonna happen. You need to go out.
Yeah.
You got to go
Gotta go out.
outside. You got
Go
to
on a
outside.
cruise. Do you want to meet
Mine-
tons of people? Tell them, Therese.
Do us a big favor and hit that like button, share this episode, and subscribe.